Hi everyone, Sean Kennedy from Java SE Certification Training, and I just want to talk in this video about identifiers in Java and the rules that surround them. So basically there are identifiers in all walks of life. For example, I have an identifier, my name is Sean Kennedy. A dog would have an identifier, Spot, Rex, whatever. So your variables that you want to set up to have a value in Java, they need to be identified as well. And this is where identifiers come in. You give it an identity. So there are rules around valid ones. And in the Oracle exams, the certification exams, you will need to know what will compile and what will not compile. So let's look at some. Here inside the class, I have declared the following ints. $1 is assigned 1 and £3. Both of those will compile because identifiers, which is what $1 is, and £3, they're both variables or identifiers for your int variables. They begin with the £sign or the $sign, which are both acceptable. Letters, you can begin your variable name with a letter. You can begin it with an underscore. You cannot begin it with a number. And any of the following characters must be valid. So there must be letters, underscores, numbers, or the £sign and the $sign. Special characters like star, colon, semicolon, they're not allowed anywhere in the identifier. Now this particular variable is an instance variable because it's non-static and it's in the class space. It's not inside any method. This particular variable is static, so it's a class variable. So what's the difference? Well, we'll talk about that in another video, but as an aside, if I declared 20 instances of the identifiers test, so I have 20 objects, I will have 20 instances of the int $1 and £3, but I will have only one instance of this float variable f. It'll be shared across all the 20 objects. The object instances will share the one copy. That's why it's known as a class variable. Note as well the f at the end has to be put in for your float. Otherwise it'll think it's a double and you would need to change that to a double to get it to compile. So I'm leaving it as a float just to point that out. Append lowercase f, uppercase f, both will work. So then I'm coming in here to main, and note public and static, they can be reversed. And I'm using the var arg syntax as the same as string array, both will work. Okay, and I will leave it as the var arg syntax. And then I'm calling the method identifiers. And I'm calling that from within main. Main is a static, and I'm not calling it with anything preceding it, like an object reference. So identifiers then must be static. Again, there'll be another video on that. So here we are inside this method now, identifiers. And I've declared some more ones that are valid. There's beginning with $1 and £, and there's an underscore. And what I wanted to show on this particular one is these particular variables here are the exact same names as the ones out here, the instance variables. So if you're inside in a method, it's not going to give out about them. Okay, that's the first thing to realize. You have these local variables inside the method. These are local variables. These are instance variables. And what happens in that instance is that these local variables hide the instance ones. Okay, so what it means is when I output that, first thing it'll do is it'll check the current scope, which is this scope here, and it'll output that one there. So I should get 2 when I run that file. And there it is, coming up with 2. And that's why it comes up with 2. However, if I declare a scope within the method and I try to redeclare the local variable, now I get a problem. It says that this variable is already defined in the method. So your local variables can hide instance variables or class variables, but you cannot redeclare local variables again in a nested scope. So just be aware of that. Now, all of these ones here are invalid, and I just want to talk about why. That's because the colon is present. Doesn't matter which side or where that colon is present, it's invalid. The minus is the same. It's not a valid character. The star is not valid. The full stop is not valid. Starting with a number is invalid. If I go to the other side and get rid of the leading one, it's okay. And of course, you cannot use keywords for your variable names. They're reserved words. And just as an aside, if your variable name has only one word, it's all lowercase letters. And if it's going to be more than one word, you keep the first one in lowercase and then the first letter of the second word, and any subsequent words use a capital letter. Much easier to read it then. And continuing on from that, your methods would be the same. They would follow that camel casing principle. However, your classes should always begin with an uppercase letter and then follow camel casing rules after that. I want to go and look at what's up in Oracle and talk about various types of variables now. Instance variables, the non-static fields. Class variables are the static fields. We talked about those. Your local variables and your parameters. So let's go back here. There's your instance variable, instance field. There's your static or class variable or field. These are local variables declared inside a method. The parameters are these guys that are inside the round brackets of the method. So if I was to say identifiers takes in a string, we'll call it name, and then when I'm calling it, I must pass down a name. So that then is the argument that you're passing down, and that then is the parameter. And that particular parameter has the scope of the whole method. So that's just to shed some light on variables, identifiers, and as an aside with some scope, instance variables, class variables, and so on. If you like the video, please click on the like. If you would like to subscribe for further material, please subscribe. Any other questions and comments, please leave them below. Thanks very much.